And call room. Oh yes, yeah, we are recording this. Welcome to the sixth session of the track essay and call room event leader session. A huge welcome from Ian Fisher in the Lower Mainland, who's been busy sunning all day. Keith Newell in Victoria, Jennifer Campbell in snowbound Winnipeg, and myself at a buried baggage carousel in the Toronto airport, hoping somebody finds my bag soon. My apologies, I was hoping to be someplace quiet and comfortable, but hopefully we can, this will work. Anthony, do you want to go ahead a slide?
Yep.
So the agenda for today is Jennifer's going to do an update on the shoe scheme under Rule 5.2. We talked briefly at the last session about this, and Jennifer has some more information for you tonight. I'll give an update on the split in the disciplines from essay, and then we'll go into some questions. We're always looking for topics to cover at our next session, so keep that in mind as you go through this evening's session as topics you might want to hear more about. So with that, I'll pass it over to Jennifer for the update on the shoe scheme.
Hello, everyone. Here we go. We had a conference meeting that was with Ian Reid, Larry Mayhew, Heather Clamahagan, Brian Thompson, and myself to discuss the new regulations that the World Athletics has put out. And they are effective as of January 1st, 2022. And it shows on the slide when they were, the amendments were all approved. I do highly recommend that we take the time and look at the shoe scheme updates from World Athletics. Next. Okay, in the document has the green note. It states it is important that the planning process it is determined which check will be made. Preferably, these should be communicated to the athletes and teams in advance to avoid stress or confusion immediately following, immediately before competition. Can
you
we
guys,
get
somebody's
that note?
mic's on. There's multiple mics on. It's really hard to hear you, Jen.
Yeah. Can people turn off their mute themselves, please? And thank you. I think we got it there. Okay.
It is Serge's one that's unmuted.
Serge, are you still on? If you could mute everybody but myself, I guess. Maybe, does that work? Okay. Oh, Lord. Can you mute?
Serge that needs to mute himself.
Serge, mute yourself.
Okay, there we go. Okay, now this phrase is very important for those of you who are going to be running major competitions this year, that in your athletes / coaches manuals or on your website, you have to be very clear of what the expectations are with this shoe scheme that World Athletics has put forward. So everyone has to be aware of the steps that are going to be handled. Okay, next slide, please. So new regulation. As of November 1st, 2024, the stacked height, in other words, the sole thickness across all athletics shoes in track and field will become 20 millimeters. So in other words, for 2 years, we have to put up with different sole thicknesses, but after November 1st, 2024, all the shoes will be 20 millimeters. The reason for the 2-year span is to allow manufacturers to make changes to their shoes. Okay, next slide.
So Jen, just a quick point though, it will be maximum of 20 millimeters, right?
That's it.
Yeah, so just you might want to augment the slide to say maximum.
Okay. Well, okay. Also, in this document, that athlete shoes must not contain any embedded sensing or intelligence technology now or in the future. This does not apply to the use of heart monitors, or heart rate, or speed distance monitors, etc. Okay, it just cannot do any sensing or giving intellectual intelligence technology in a pathway. Okay, these types of shoes are called smart shoes, and they can provide information to an athlete from measuring athletic performance and fitness level. Pressure sensors are in the sole of the shoe, so they record the pace, stride, cadence, plus these shoes can provide excellent cushioning properties and comfort to the athlete who's wearing the shoe. Okay, next slide. The key factor for these changes. World Athletics wants to have a long-term sustainability and implementatable solution for shoes. In other words, they want to balance the playing field. Okay, they want to make sure every country, every athlete has the opportunity to get the same type of shoes. So basically what this statement says is the have-nots will be equal to those who are the people who have had these shoes that have specially made, have new things in them. It'll be a level playing field is what basically I've been trying to say here. Next one, please. Okay, the reasons for doing a shoe scheme. Okay, the shoe scheme purpose is to level the playing surface field so all athletes have equal opportunities. No more the haves versus the have-nots. Okay, World Athletics has stated the purpose of these regulations is to establish a transparent, objective, feasible, and fair set of requirements and procedures. So it'll be common across the board. Okay, Rule 5. 5.2, athletes may compete either barefoot or in athletic shoes. Athletes must comply with all regulations regarding to the wearing of athletic shoes provided by the council. If the illegal shoe is found in the call room, the pod leader hopefully will notify, or the call room the chief call room judge will come over, or the call room referee, or the ITO. We will be confiscating that shoe. Okay, but we will also remind all the athletes, if they've not brought in 2 pairs of shoes or both pairs are illegal, that they can run in their bare feet. Okay, the purpose of athletic shoes is for protection and stability to the feet and a firm grip on the ground or surface. Shoes made to order to suit the characteristics of an athlete's foot. In other words, custom made or other requirements are not permitted anymore. Okay, now, applicable competition. When is the shoe scheme going to be put into place? World Athletics, applicable competitions makes clear the scope of the events the shoe scheme rule and regulations apply to. Okay, the ones that it will not apply to are your amateur clubs, school or college, or even master level competitions. So the big meet being held in BC this summer, which is Athletics Canada National Championship, the shoe scheme will be in effect.
We did also have a question in the chat, Jennifer, about will the shoe rule be in effect for the indoor championships in New Brunswick?
If Athletics Canada is running them, and I would say yes, it should be, because that's a national caliber competition. Okay, and here's a list that we were talking about when the group of us met. AC National Championships, AC's National Track and Field Tour that they have now, NACAC, National Marathon events, national cross country events. If Canada is fortunate of hosting the Pan Am Games or the British Commonwealth Games or any World Athletics meets, that rule, shoe schemes will be in force. Okay, for the shoe scheme, this is important, the process steps. Basically, we looked at it.
Jennifer, can I just ask a question? There's on one chart, you said it was coming in 2024. What scheme are we dealing with before 2024?
You're dealing the scheme that was just published, that it's going to be, there's 20, there's 25, there's the other measurements. When it comes November 1st, 2024, all track, all field shoes will be the same sole thickness, 20 millimeters. This is a grace period that athletics, the World Athletics has allowed shoe companies to give them a period of time to make all the shoes down to that sole thickness requirement level.
If
Okay.
I can ask the same kind of question, but this is, everything is in effect except the 20 millimeter max on shoe soles. Is that correct?
The
Everything
correct
you've, everything you've just discussed, except the 20 millimeter maximum, is in effect as of now.
Yeah, it's in effect until November 1st, 2024. Then all shoes must be 20 millimeters. Okay. Now, basically, World Athletics is looking at it in 3 stages. The pre-meet, which I talked a little bit about, was how you're making the information available to the coaches, to the athletes. And that can be by website, direct mailing, the manuals that are set. During the meet would be the duties of the call room, how they're going to handle it. And now they've added in a step at post control, which we will get to in this presentation. So basically, the process for Canadian champions for the track, there's the process of the athlete registering their shoes. That we're still working on, but the steps within the call room, steps within the start line, the finish line, and now post-event control are basically black and white, how we're going to do them. As of right now, with athlete registration, you are allowed to, you have to register the shoes that you are competing in for your events that you are going to do at Athletics Canada's national meet. The call room does allow an athlete to bring in 2 pairs of shoes, because sometimes they want to change at the start line into another pair, and that's fine, that's allowed, but both pairs have to be inspected. For the field events, basically, once again, athlete registration, the call room, event site, then post-event control. Next one, okay.
If I
Now,
could ask you a question now, Jennifer, this means that anybody in the decathlon or heptathlon is going to be registering, say, possibly 6 pairs of shoes. And then they will be measured, I presume, at a call room or in a call room for
yes,
if the combined events people are actually
Yeah.
in their rest area measuring shoes there.
yes, they have to have their own call room, chief judge and a couple of call room judges with them. We will only in the main call room see them the first event of their day. So they will come in with their hockey bags, which will hopefully be zipped up because I don't want to see those other shoes. I only want to have the shoes for the first event of that day are the ones that we are going to be measuring and making sure they are legal. After that, they belong to the combined events chief call room judge and the call room judges, and they'll take care of everything else after that. All right, the athlete registration, the athlete has to declare the shoes to be worn in competition. So Athletics Canada, hoping they will consult with NOC about a form and a process. It must be followed to the letter that the shoes declared must be on the World Athletics list of eligible legal shoes. Okay. Okay, athletes registration. Okay, it is up to them to submit the information requested by the host organizing committee in consultation with Athletics Canada. Athletes need to take the responsibility of submitting through an online registration on the athlete shoe declaration form that states, and this is some of the information that we gathered from the report: name and date of competition, event shoe will be used in what events, gendered, shoe company name, model name and number, and if they have orthotics, like an insole for medical reasons, there has to be documentation of that if that can be allowed, and it has to be dated and the athlete has to sign it. Okay. Okay, also, when this information goes out in the coach's manual and the athlete's manual, there has to be a clarification on which types of customizations are permissible with prior approval from World Athletics. So if someone is going to go in the meet in this summer, July, they should be, and they have to have something put in their shoe because of their foot structure. They have to get that approved by the World Athletics. And there's a process that they can go on and do that. Okay, this sort of levels the playing field. It does allow adaptations for individuals on medical and safety grounds, but there has to be documentation that supports those 2 points. Okay. What Athletics Canada will do if some athlete does send in that he has medical approval, they have to have a copy of that document from World Athletics. So there has to be a phrase created for the athletes who have to have adaptations in their shoes on the meet registration form. And there'll have to be specific questions. Okay. Also, Athletics Canada has to provide a list of World Athletics approved altered shoes. So that list has to be asked whoever is running the call room in at the next big Athletics Canada meet. Okay. Okay, now, as I've said before a couple of times, registration form has to have the information on it. AC and or the website from BC Athletics should have all this information on it. Okay, it has to be in the athletes and coaches information manuals. Okay, there has to be clauses in there that state that the athlete confirms that his or her shoe, which one they're using, meets the criteria in the World Athletics rule number 5. Also, the athlete will abide by the said shoe check procedure at the event, which means the call room. And it now means the competition site and the post control area. This includes that there could be further testing after the final call room inspections have been done. And as I've just said, this could happen at the event site and the post-event control area. Understands that the athlete cannot change his or her shoes without them being checked by a qualified official. In other words, a call room judge or someone who's been authorized by the organization to look at these shoes if they've been altered. Next slide, please. Okay, more clauses. The athletes have to understand that it is a disqualification if an athlete does not have the athletic shoes that she or he competed in at the post-control area. So there will be a post-control shoe officer there. What process they do, I'm not sure yet. We're still working on that. If the athlete does not have the shoes that they were competing in, this athlete could be disqualified. So that means track referees, umpires, field event people, everybody will go through the post control. You better have the shoes that you just ran in or competed in. Okay. Understands competing, a referee has the right to request that an athlete has to submit his or her shoe for further testing per World Athletics Rule 5. And a referee can make that request and the shoes are gone. Okay, next slide. Only, once again, athletes only allowed 2 pairs of shoes per event. Call room will only inspect 2 pairs of shoes per event. The spikes, the sole, and is the shoe on the World Athletics Shoe Scheme list. This rule does not pertain to combined events, except for the first event of the day, which we have talked about. The remaining of the inspection is done by the combined events chief call room judge and the call room judges in that area. Okay. Okay, continuing. Point 3, if shoes approved by World Athletics as of the 23rd July 2021. The list is not a complete list for every shoe that has ever been worn by athletes. If a shoe is not on the list, it can be because a manufacturer has failed to submit the shoe, it has not been approved, or it is an older model, an older shoe. Any shoe from January 2016 is deemed to meet the technical requirements of the Rule 5 and does not need to be approved unless requested. This deemed approval does not prejudice the rights of World Athletics or referees set out in the rules and regulations. If they want to inspect it, they have the full right, and an athlete has to comply with the referee's request to look at the shoe. Next, please. Okay, suggestions to support athletes, athletic athletes on the shoe scheme, because this is going to be a new event coming up. Call room officials available before the meet. have 3 to 4 senior call room judges that meet at least 3 days prior to start of the meet so they can answer any questions and deal with shoe issues. Okay, and we can also deal and help out with doing some shoe sole thickness measurements. Post on bulletin boards around the area so they can have like the TIC center, warm-up areas, the controlled check-in gate if the meet is having that. Where we post the flow charts for the meet, put up charts there of the shoes. So they can look for when they have to check into the call room, also see if their shoe is on the list. Next slide, please. Okay, also we need to remind athletes of potential disqualification, things that happen. Okay, if an athlete does take off their shoes and tosses them into the crowd, that's a DQ, a possible DQ, I should say. Okay. And as I said before, if a referee has the right to request that an athletic shoe, an athlete has to show their shoe for further testing. And it could be that they take that shoe and it's gone off to be tested somewhere else. So we remind athletes that keep your shoes on till you're all the way through from your either field event or your track event into the post control, and you will be met there with whoever is the shoe control scheme officer who is going to do what inspections on whom. Could be they're going to do all the people that make the finals. If it's a semifinal, they might pick the top 3, then a random for the other if it's a 800-meter race, whatever they choose to do. Next, please. Okay, call room. Purpose of the call room, we have to make sure we confirm the athletes are wearing the shoes as the athlete has declared them on their form. And the shoes comply with the requirements of Rule 5 now. Next. Okay, we have to receive the list of athletes and make sure that the list of shoes, they match, whether it is the heat sheet or it's a flight sheet. We have to confirm the brand and model matches everything. Okay, we remind everybody that the pod crews have to do all the required inspections that have to be, not one can be skipped, and we have to all do that within a range of 10 minutes to keep things moving and not making it a longer time holding the athletes in the call room. Could be very easy. We add 2 more call room judges in to do shoe inspections for each pod crew that's there. If you have the 100 meters and there's 8 runners, so we add in that a crew, instead of normally it's just 1 crew, 2 people that'll go around and do the shoe inspection. We add 2 more. Someone does 1 to 4, and then the other crew does 5 to 8, and we keep the time frame down to the 10 minutes. It can work. If it's a longer race, we probably add in a couple more people. Like if there's 18 in the race, then we might put in 3 crews that do the shoe testing, and we get 5 and 5 and 5, and we can get it done with no problems. Cross our fingers. Next one, please. Start line. Okay, when it comes to the start line, or it's the event site, one or the other, we have to watch for people who are officiating, make sure the athletes do not change their shoes, don't wander over or see a coach or someone else. We have to watch what's going on. Okay, because the only shoes we really want to measure are the ones that were the athlete was competing in. Next one. Okay, once again, keep reinforcing, whether it's the website, in the manuals, through the call room, signage throughout the facility, the stadium. Do not take your shoes off or throw them into the crowd. You can't do that until you cleared post-event control. Okay. And there will be officers, either the referees who are assigned on the field of competition or the shoe control officers. You might have a combination of both, or you might only have shoe control officers that are going to take that responsibility of that 100%, or you might just have the referees that will take that responsibility at a meet. So athletes have to be aware how many people are available or going to be looking at their shoes. Next one, please. Post-control event. Okay. There will, from my understanding, reading the document, shoe control officer will be there, will confirm that the athletes competed in the legal shoes. So they will have to have a complete set of field events and track events. Athletes not in legal shoes, I will lay a bet, they will be DQ'd. Next. Shoe scheme summary, World Athletics. A more flexible compliance procedure for athletic shoes to make checking compliance more practical and efficient, and depending on the nature of the event. And I'm really looking forward to hearing how it rolls out in BC this summer. Greater emphasis will be placed on conducting post-race spot checks through the introduction of shoe control procedures and a shoe control officer role. There will be some events, major marathons, where pre-event declarations will continue. So they will probably do a whole bunch of stuff before because of the numbers that they have coming through in their events. Next one. Shoe scheme summary, well, finals, probably, we're thinking probably they will test everybody's shoes. Heats and semis, and they might be selected at random, like doping control selects at random. Most likely the meeting manager, technical delegate and or the competition director will decide what format will be used. And that has to be made, that decision and that information that they are going to put out has to be done shortly, because they should have at least 3 months notice, the athletes and coaches, how the process is going to work. If not, I would say 3 would be min and max would be probably 5 months, but they should know what's going on. Next one. Okay, remember the Rule 14 compliance, breaches and sanctions. Anytime before, during, or after. These people have the right to inspect your shoes. 14.1, athletes must always keep their athletic shoes in their possession in the warm-up area, call room, and field of play. Must not give their shoes to any athlete support personnel or throw their athletic shoes into the crowd at any time. Okay, they have to make sure what shoes they competed in, when they get to the post control area, they're still on their feet. Rule 15.1.1, shoe does not comply with the regulations, or 15.1.2 and does not comply with direction or instruction of the referee, or 15.3.3 does not present themselves to the shoe control. When requested, the athlete may be disqualified. And the next one, please. And now I'm going to turn it over to Brian. Are you there, Brian?
Still here.
Okay. it's
Thank
all
you,
yours.
Jennifer. That was very informative. There's a slight chance I could get dropped here. So if I do, hopefully, Jennifer, you can pick up. But I was going to just talk briefly
Just a moment,
about.
Brian, before you go on, I have a couple of questions for Jen.
You want to do the question?
Of course, it's me.
Larry, can we because Brian's in a tough spot, can we wait till afterwards at the end and let Brian go through his portion?
Sure, no problem.
Okay, just efficiency wise, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. I might get dropped, so I'm gonna try and get through this before I lose my connection. So we talked in November 25th. Jane gave a presentation on the split between the essays going into starter assistant track and the call room. So that split has happened. The status that you were as of January 1st, 2021 is where you now reside. So if you were a level 3 SA on December 31st, 2020, you are now a level 3 track starter assistant and you are a level 3 call room judge. So now the splits happened and you have both designations. Have the next slide, Anthony. So going forward, if you want to upgrade, you need to decide what path you want to take. So if you're a level 3 wanting to go to level 4, you need to decide if you're going to continue or if you want to go down the track starter's assistant pathway to level 4 or the call room pathway to level 4. You can always do both, but you still need to decide which path you're going to do. And at the end of the day, you'll have double designations, but you have to do twice the work. So it's basically 2 paths. You declare which one you want to upgrade down on. Okay, and then Jennifer and Jackie Downey have created a suite of clinics to support the split and the new pathway. So there's clinics for level 3, there's clinics for level 4. This is the model. It's not finished yet, and this may change. So don't photocopy this and assume this is it. But essentially, there's some clinics. There'll be clinics for each level, and we'll be rolling those out shortly. I'll just finish this one so that we can then go to questions. We're always looking for topics for the next session, the sessions we want to cover. So the next meeting, topics that we might want to cover is getting ready for the outdoor season. Any of these, this shoe declaration questions, and potentially looking at some of these workshops or an overview of the workshop. So keep those in mind, send the emails out. The next one of these slides here has the email addresses on it. We'd love to, well, not this one, but the email does. Sorry, that's what I was thinking. So that's all we had for content. We'll open the floor up for questions. And if you don't have time to cover it, we'll take them by email after offline.
Just before we open the floor for questions, can I ask Jennifer 2 questions that were in the chat from earlier?
Sure.
So Jennifer, the first question was about smart shoes. You had talked about them quite early on in your presentation, but is there a list of approved smart shoes?
You'd have to go on to the World Athletics list and go through the document that they, at the very beginning, the one I said that was just approved, and go through that. It gives a lot of information there.
Okay. And then the other question was about the shoe schema and all of the sorts of information about that. Has that all been okayed by Athletics Canada and passed on to the branches?
It's all the information that we presented, you saw on the slide, is from that document from World Athletics. So I'm sure Athletics Canada is well informed about what's happening with the shoes. It's just that we now, with Athletics Canada, have to come up, and I would presume that will be the board and executive directors across Canada, and not coming up together with, I would probably recommend a standard registration form for those applicable meets that we will be running the shoe scheme at. So that would be a follow-up that I'd probably ask Jane Edstrom to follow through with Athletics Canada and NOC.
Okay.
I will bet that there will be many athletes and coaches that have no idea what's going on with shoes. Even by June, when the end of June, when the meet's on. But
Well, this
I
this
could
is
be
why
wrong.
go ahead, sorry.
That's fine.
Well, this is one of the reasons we're presenting this now and stating that this information has to get out and be sent out by Athletics Canada, making coaches and athletes and provinces aware that there is a shoe scheme happening at applicable meets that they're allowing, and they'll run this. Because I don't think it would be fair to blindside those people, or they're coming to BC in June, July, and what do you mean shoe scheme? This has to be organized by Athletic Canada and BC Athletics, that this information is out there so they know what's going on. And that poor call room referee is going to be, might be very busy dealing with a lot of unhappy athletes if it isn't there. Okay.
Is that all the questions from the chat?
There's a couple more that are just coming in now. So Dave was asking if we're concerned about not having enough call room officials. If, I guess, maybe it would be useful if you could talk a little bit about the split and how many people are people mostly declaring for SA going forward, or is that a concern that we have, that we might not have enough call room judges in the future?
I'm sorry, I can't answer that question. I haven't seen the list of who has separated. You would have to go through your branch BOC official and ask, have people made the declarations for the province? Then you can take a look across Canada, what has been put together by NOC to show who's chosen to go what route, would be my suggestion.
And then we had a question, I think you had answered this partially, but maybe just as a follow-up, but will Athletics Canada be sending out this information about shoe restrictions to all athletes in the spring to remind them that this is going to happen at nationals?
I think they should be in their newsletter or individually. BOCs should be sending it out to their athletes and their officials in their province.
And then a question about upgrading. If somebody has met all the criteria to upgrade but hasn't been confirmed, will they be grandfathered in, or will they have to be will they have to just go pick one of the split?
I would suggest that you approach your BOC. BOC can send in a request to NOC, and you can get an answer from there.
And then just a question about,
Okay.
will we have any sort of visuals to show what's a legal versus an illegal show? Something that was like a big poster that we could put up? So they were just saying that that might be helpful to have.
I think it's more criteria in that it has to be number one, for the next 2 years, you got to list what shoes that meet the 20, the 25 and further up, what the sole thickness is, and the list of names of approved shoes by World Athletics. It's the athlete's responsibility to make sure their shoes are on that list. If they're not on the list, that means the shoes that person has are illegal. I believe World Athletics has asked every company that makes athletic shoes, whether for the track or the field, and has cut them in half and inspected them. Because there are requirements that there can only be one plate in the sole and things like that. So this is This is a big jump. This is a big step by World Athletics to make sure the have-nots and those who have are playing on a level playing field now. And it's going to take a while to probably work all these little kinks out but the best way is to make sure we inform our public, our athletes, our coaches, as soon as possible about this shoe scheme.
Okay, Jen,
Mhm.
two things. For the registration process, to simplify it for everybody and make sure we have the right information on the call sheets and all the rest of it. I would suggest that people look at using technology and have a drop down for shoe manufacturer and then a drop down for their shoes and let them select that. And I would just keep it consistent all the way through.
That decision has to come from Athletics Canada because those meets, the ones that they're applicable, that they will govern, that direction has to come from Athletics Canada with the direction from NOC as well in there.
Okay, so can we suggest that going forward? I think it would be awesome.
Well, I think the 5 of us will be meeting again and we can nail this down a bit more and make recommendations to, well, we'll have to include NOC, senior staff there, and Athletics Canada, that this is, all this information has to be going out ASAP. So I would say probably next week, Larry, make yourself available. We'll have something.
Okay, I'm always available
Okay.
for you, Jen. And the other thing
Thank you,
is,
dear.
and this is going to be the same thing is probably goes up the ladder as well, is that on the registration form, there with technology now, you can just sort of acknowledge that the rules are there and highlight it. So at least they know if something's coming. So between having a drop down
Yes.
and having an acknowledgement, then the less babysitting will have to be done later on in the process.
And I like that idea because all those clauses, before you can even put your name into it, you have to check off that you've read it, you read it before you put down Larry Mayhew, Puma 1107 shoe.
Yep.
And so they will probably have to self-declare and take some responsibility into this, but it is up to Athletics Canada to make sure this information is out across Canada.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I looked at the list. There's 10 pages
Oh, I know, it's growing every day.
of shoes. So it's that's how can we simplify it versus not?
Yes,
Okay, good job. Thanks.
no problem.
I think Mandy has her hand up with a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, these rules apply also for all the veterans?
No, it probably will not for masters.
Okay, the masters, yeah.
Probably, high school series, college, university. It will apply to meets that are run by Athletics Canada
Okay.
because they are governing body.
Okay, I just wanted to know because like I ran into a problem last summer where a veteran was wearing some Superflies and they were prescribed by his doctor, otherwise he can't run.
Well, then part of the process would be for that athlete to make sure that he or she has the documentation to prove.
Okay, so they can run with them if they have a prescription and it's authorized by a doctor.
It has to be authorized through World Athletics as well.
Okay.
Okay.
That's
And
good.
there is a spot where it says where to go when you go to World Athletics about I forget the name of the committee, but shoe eligibility or something. You go through and there are steps that have to be done and you have to prove. It's like the therapeutic exemption athletes that need medication while they're on the field of play. That still pertains to shoes. You can't, there is a shoe group committee that takes care of that.
Thank you. That answers my question.
Oh, I'm glad to help.
Just a couple other things from the chat. Jennifer, David Weicker wanted to let us know that the WPA has also approved the shoe scheme. So it's not just World Athletics, but also World
Yes,
Parallel.
they're supporting. Okay, so that's good to know.
And
'Cause
then a
that
question
will
from,
also affect BC as well.
Shoes are.
and then a question from Heather about, you had talked a bit through your presentation about if they didn't keep their shoes, they may be disqualified. And Heather was just wondering why the wording is may and not will be disqualified.
Those are the wording from World Athletics from that document. They're using positive language in the sense maybe. It's not as harsh as will be. So I think it's politically correct language they are using.
I know, I was just wondering whether 10 was keeping.
Okay. Are there any more questions, Anthony?
I don't think so. I think we've gotten everything.
Okay. Is everyone okay with anything else?
Just before we go, a reminder that these sessions count for professional development points or credits. So make sure you record it on your card. I'll send everybody a list of all the sessions we've had offline, and you can update your record cards that way too.
Well, that would be awesome. Thank you, Brian. And also thank you for this format. You have to, this is not all my creative work. This is all Brian's forte of putting all this slides together. So thank you very much for this. I like the layout of the pictures and the slides.
Well, if that's it, we'll send out a notice for the next meeting. When we get that planned, send in your requests for topics and we'll get it organized and let you know when the next meeting is. Otherwise, thank you for attending, and that was a good information load here.
Thank you, everybody. Stay safe and enjoy the snow if you're in the snow country.